In this video, I sit down with Janet Sprissler. She is the broker and owner of Rent 805, one of the premier property management shops here in the West County. We cover some important information regarding changes to tenant protections, just cause evictions, as well as a few items that are on the ballot this November, including Costa Hawkins Act and the attempts to repeal that, as well as AB 2216, which covers pet deposits and pet rent. So if you're a landlord in the area or you aspire to be one, this is a video that you don't want to miss. Okay, so Janet Sprissler, broker and owner of Rent 805, a premier property management firm here in Ventura County. Did I describe that accurately, Janet?
You got it all there. Yes, absolutely. All we do is property management. We don't do any sales here, though. That's a big thing that people know. Investors, I'm glad to give a performa on your property, but we're not going to do any sales here.
Gotcha. Okay, good to know. Well, welcome. Thank you so much for agreeing to do this today. We mentioned off camera before we started recording that every time I talk to you, I'm just feverishly, scribbling down notes because you have a ton of value and it's been super beneficial for me and for my clients. And so that's why I wanted to jump on today and do this. So, but before we get into Rent 805, I wanted to kind of just talk a little bit about you, Janet Sprissler. Where do you live? Why do you choose to call this area your home? How long have you been here? Can you tell me some of that backstory?
Sure, absolutely. So I've been doing property management for over 20 years. I started out in multifamily, I did multifamily for about 16 years. So the last 4 I've concentrated on single family homes because what we realized in the mom and pop universe was that they did not have the tools that multifamily has. The buying power, the knowledge of how to make sure that they're not paying for utilities, the rules, the legislation that comes down, that they're just behind the times on, and people were getting really stuck up on that. So I was doing consulting for a while for them, and then I realized, you know what, I sort of kind of want to get my feet wet in this. So then I opened my own firm for single family homes. So I do single family to small multifamilies currently.
Okay, right on.
Yeah, and I live here in Oxnard.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I live here in Oxnard. Our business is Ventura Oxnard. We go up to Camarillo. We go from Camarillo to Carpinteria. Is what I like to tell folks.
Nice.
So
okay.
we're not in Ojai because we believe that if you can't get to a property within 30 minutes, then we would have a problem with that. So
yeah.
we try to stick it pretty tight to where we can get to.
And I know some folks do some out-of-state investing, but if you're not a believer in that, that's probably good advice for an investor too. Like if you can't get to your property within 30 minutes,
You should have a property manager on it. Yeah. A lot of folks, and a lot of folks really, here's what we see the number one catch up is, I have this property, I'm moving out of state, I'm just going to put these people in it and they'll pay and they're going to treat it like gold. Well, unless you have a property manager actually walking through there, doing inspections and keeping an eye on the place, you have no idea of what's happening in there. And that's where we see the horror stories is they put someone in place, no one's seen the unit for years upon years upon years, and they're just hoping for the best when they walk through. That's the time. That's where you're gonna find all your moisture remediation.
Yeah.
You're gonna find holes in the walls. I don't want to be like the naysayer of it all, but a watched property does a lot better than a not watched property.
That's a nice way of saying it. Well, how long have you been living in Oxnard, and why did you choose to live in the area? Are you from here originally?
Yeah. So no, I'm originally from Philadelphia. Spent some time in Phoenix, which was too hot. I was in Indiana, too cold. This is the Goldilocks bear place to live, right? 75 degrees year round. Love Oxnard.
Yeah.
We are very blessed to have this phenomenal weather year round. It's cold when it's 40 degrees or 50 degrees. It's too hot when it hits 80.
Yeah.
We're spoiled, and I can't imagine living somewhere else where you can drive down the road and you can see the snow-capped mountains and yet not feel any of it.
Oh, exactly. And sit on the beach while you're looking at those snow-capped mountains too.
Yes.
Pretty spectacular.
Yes. But if you wanted to go, you can go. It's an hour away, but you're not stuck.
Yeah,
Literally.
I agree. This is like hands down, this is the most beautiful place on the planet to live. Obviously, we're speaking our own book. We both live here. We live in the area. We love it, but it's true. And that's why, I mean, at least on the residential sales side of the world, I'm continuing to see folks move to our area and want to settle in our area because of the weather, because of the lower cost of living comparative to other parts of, California. But yeah,
Right.
we're certainly spoiled here. So,
We
uh,
are.
okay, so Rent 805, that was founded in 2021. You mentioned you have extensive experience before that. Kind of cruising around on your website and trying to learn a little bit more about you. You had mentioned the Serenade at River Park. Can you tell me your involvement over there? What was your experience with that? Jump into that for me.
Wow. So, that's built on the riverbed.
Yeah.
So when it was built, it was having a hard time getting up because
Mm.
no one believed that that was not going to be floating down the road at one point or another. At that point, the collection had in it Whole Foods, Target, Starbucks. That was the collection.
Yeah.
It had been struggling for about 7 years. They had gone through several different managers, couldn't understand why it was struggling. And then
And
they
it's an
saw me
apartment complex, just for people that.
apartment complex, 400 units, apartment complex, brand new build. And it was just struggling. They brought me on, and it was a joke amongst property managers in the area that you would give someone about 4 months and then they would quit because
Ah,
it was crazy. It was just a beast of a property, and no one really understood why. But if you have no action going on at the collection to bring in those managers, and that was their assumption was, we build it, they're building the collection, everyone will just come and live here at
mm,
Serenade. It's before Mosaic, before Tiempo, which are the next two builds that happened about 9 years after Serenade was built. So they brought me on. Everyone had bets on me, and I had it turned around in about 3 months.
right on.
It just needed a really strong cleanup, and I was sort of kind of known for cleaning up properties.
Yeah.
That wasn't my first rodeo. I did the same thing at Capes of Ventura, which used to be Pelican Point. If you're from the area, Pelican Point had a huge negative connotation because it was known as the party place to be in
Okay.
the
Well,
night.
so when you say cleanup, are you talking like, are you renovating units? I mean, that was a newer built property, or are you talking financially? Are you cleaning them up financially or with vacancy, or what? Describe that for me.
The whole 9 yards. So we walked in, it had really low occupancy. It had a turn problem. So when people would move out, that's called a turn, getting that unit ready to go. It had a staffing issue, and just like unknowns. I walked into a stack of bills that hadn't been paid just because they couldn't keep a manager long enough to pay the bills.
Wow.
So they had different companies on it trying to do their best. So it was a lot of long nights. My
Yeah.
kids lived in that clubhouse because we'd be leaving at 1 o'clock at night because it had to be. The problem is it was in this overhaul. So, and really, it's always people pricing. Your problems are people pricing or product.
Got it.
They didn't have the product. They couldn't turn. I think I walked in. It was 30 vacant units.
Wow.
Different than Caves of Ventura that had 60 vacant units.
Yeah.
So, how do you get them turned fast enough with a decent product? They did not have stamping. I think at that point, that was roughly like a staff of 10 people. And I think they had two in maintenance left. And they had one girl that was holding on for dear life as
Uh,
a leasing agent.
yeah.
And they had her as an assistant manager. I'm like, what are they doing to this poor girl? There was no parking. The HOA hated us over there because of the fact that all these people were parking on the streets because they were using all their garages for storage.
Uh,
The garage cleanup was crazy.
did
And
you have to
then,
start to enforce that tenants were using the garages for their vehicles? Did that become a policy then once you got in there to solve?
yeah, that took about 6 months. First of all, we had to go calm down the HOA. I can remember that first meeting
Yeah.
where the police officers were like, "You cannot tell them they're from Serenade. They hate you." And I'm like, "Oh no, 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 no! That's no way I live my life. We're just gonna
I'm
rip these
Janet
bills
Sprissler,
off.
baby.
We're
Yeah.
gonna do this." And you know what? We were all friends by the end of the night because they realized I was not going away because that was their biggest thing. Is every time they would get in, and then management would change.
Yeah.
So once that got solved, if there was a problem, someone could come see me. But we literally had to take a whole weekend
Mm.
and rearrange every single garage and move stuff out. Some of the things I saw in those garages, you just have to shake your head because people just didn't know what to do. It was just mismanaged there for a bit. So
Yeah.
then once everything was solved, I brought in my team from Capes at Ventura and we just got it cleaned up and rented up to
Nice.
where it made one of the highest sales ever in Ventura County
Oh,
when the
wow.
house was sold, and it sold probably about 4 years later.
Okay, that's incredible. Do you have any fun, crazy? So everybody always asks, do you have any fun, crazy real estate stories? Do you have any fun stories that you can say anonymously, right, to protect people, but that you can share about the Serenade or some tenants or some of that turnover? The HOA sounds pretty, crazy, but move into
Yeah.
the piece.
Um, some of our funnest things we would ever do is on 4th of July, you would watch the videos on Facebook
Yeah.
and you'd be like, look what I'm doing. And you could see it was all these balconies at Serenade. They were popping off fireworks from our balcony. So then we're like, we got to go over there. Or there's been times where, hey, my electricity, I don't know what's going on. It's flickering. And you would go in and there's a whole grow house in there. To
Oh my.
which, by the way, Oxnard PD, I think they still have a really good program for multifamily where they'll come and talk to you about all the different things. And then they just stop by randomly just to
Yeah.
say, hey. And it would be to the point where they're like, get the door open
Yeah.
so that keep your foot in the door so that they could come over and take care of problems. And there
Yeah.
was a lot of cleanup. We would have at one time we had to have a fake car put in an open garage because there was for a while there was
Yeah.
a huge theft problem there,
Wow.
and no one really knew what was going on. So
Yeah.
changing up that again part of the garage problems.
But to be
But
clear, all those issues are behind the Serenade
yeah,
now.
yes, behind, yes,
I
behind.
Go lease
As
over
of
there,
right
beautiful
now, it's
property. Janet
great.
was getting into shape. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. No, yeah, it's solid now. But the craziness that would happen, and the police officer would just come and sit on Friday afternoons and be like, "Okay, what do we do now?"
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
I don't know what we're doing now. And I'm still friends. I'm sorry about that. I'm still friends with all those folks.
Yeah.
So
Nice. That's great to hear. Well, okay, so tie the link then for moving on from Serenade, moving into Rent 805, getting your shop up and running, in 2021, dive into that for me.
when I left Serenade, they actually put me onto a building that was down in Irvine.
Oh,
And I literally went from here to Irvine for 11 months and 20 days because at
counted them.
at 12 months there was no tax benefit for me.
Yeah.
So I made sure I was off that property. It was a fast turnaround. Every place you go, the higher the rent, the more high scale the crime. That's really what it is.
Okay.
So I came off of that. I was like, all right, I'm not traveling anymore. That was a beast. I settled down in Thousand Oaks at a property. And then from there, I was like, people started saying, hey, but I have this problem, And unless you're out on your own with your own license, you really can't help them because you have to have a license to do what we're doing. When you're in multifamily, you do not. There are people with licensing over you. So that's when I thought, well, it's time. Let's do this. So I was consulting for a while for when it came to like fair housing issues for multifamily, and but then when I started this, it's sort of kind of I really love making people money.
Nice.
And
Okay.
a lot of people don't realize that they don't have to raise rent to make money. It's how they've set themselves up in that original lease. And that gets you through everything. I think it was best said by an Oxnard City Council member as they were passing their rent stabilization. I run my properties like a business. This is not going to affect me. So that's why I try to let people know if you set it up as a business, not with your heart, not with all the feels, but as a business, and you're making solid business decisions, you're not going to regret the decisions that you're making in the future.
Those are wise words. I like that. Who's your team at Rent 805? Like, are you surrounded by support staff? What does that look like?
I do. So we are a strong family business, as well as my assistant manager from when I was at Capes at Ventura is now here with us as a property manager. So I love that. We have Abe Luna. Fantastic, bilingual. We found that was like our next frontier that we saw was like the Latino community just needed a boost up. They needed to have their voice as well. So now we're excited to be able to service those folks. My mom is here. She works in the office on the back end. We do a huge resident benefit program. So she puts all those marketing materials together. And then I have my son who actually does all of our running, all of our Matterport, puts on our lock boxes, does all our inspections. So it's very much.
It's nice to hear that you do the Matterport piece because I feel that oftentimes tenants, when they're looking at properties, they want to be able to see within it, and they can more quickly make a decision. And I
Right.
would think that
Yes.
translate to saving your time, saving the
Mhm.
landlord's time. They can kind of decide before they actually get there, is this space going to work for me or not? So it's nice to hear that's
Right.
a service that you offer.
Yeah. You know what I love about it is that you can go up to every wall and pop it open. So
Mm,
if you're like, oh, we hear that a lot. Oh, that's the way it was. No, no, our Matterports are fresh. We do also have a Z inspector that we use. We really do a lot of technology here. So we
nice.
use a thing called Z inspector, so people can do the residents get to do their own inspection. We do it the day before with our portion of it, and they do the second half of it just to make sure that we're all copacetic. A
Okay.
lot of people get amnesia between the start date of their lease and the end date of their lease,
Yeah.
and that's not just. I'm not saying that on the tenant side. See it on the owner side. A lot. Oh no, that was all painted in gold.
Yeah.
Gold leasing. No, no, it wasn't. It was
So
white.
that Z inspection, is that checking the box in then for the move in, move out form, which has to be completed by both landlord and tenant?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So there's no more. We'll take some people because when you look at those pictures, you have to, when you go to court, you have to have pictures.
Oh
So
yeah.
we're coming with about 5 videos and 117 pictures
Yeah.
on both sides. It takes about an hour and a half to do one of these. And we let our residents know straight up
Yeah.
going to happen, but it's really to save your bacon as well as our bacon.
No,
So
exactly. I mean,
covering
it's
us all.
also it's a protection for the tenant as well.
Yes,
It saves
absolutely.
everybody, so everybody is on the same page and has the same understanding. So I love to hear that. So that's fantastic. You mentioned technology. Any other technology you want to mention? Rent collection? Is there any like what's the newest software for collecting rent? Are people still showing up with cash and checks, or what is that?
No, no, no. So we have a portal. We use a company called Rent Vine,
Okay.
and they're fantastic because you put in your maintenance. You like if you're a resident, you put in a maintenance work order. You put it through that system. It literally alerts the whole entire staff saying, "Hey, we have a work order," so that we can get on it. Um, all the conversation between the vendor, us, and the resident is through there so that no one is wondering what happened. It reduces all the phone calls because it actually asks not only as an email, but as a text. So
Okay.
it's like letting everybody know, hey, here's what's happening now. Here's what's happening now.
Yeah.
So it's very helpful in knowing what's happening in our units.
Yeah. That
Um,
sounds incredible.
yeah, we also
That
have a
one centralized
24/7.
space for that one centralized space for that communication. Sorry to cut you off, but that to have everybody on that same page, if the faucet's leaking, we need to send somebody out. I mean, just to have that sounds amazing to me. So
Yeah, yeah, and there's no question on we have to have pictures before and after.
mm,
So that's one thing that I think a lot of owners don't know. Did it get done? I have always people, well, you could have done, well, let's look at it. Here's what it truly looked like, or here's the video to it.
yeah,
Another thing that we do is we do self showings.
okay,
So we use a system that again, technology, it does a pre-screening on someone, qualifies them, they get to the door, it geolocates them somehow, whatever they do to it, gives them a code to go in, lets us know they're in, lets us know they're out, starts the application process, does a follow-up. So it's really, really fantastic because no one has to wait for someone.
yeah,
I think that's the hardest part is you hear everyone complaining they didn't show up or they were late or the prospect didn't show up. It's just a waste of time for everybody.
yeah. The
Here
agent
this
didn't show up,
way,
the prospect didn't show up, or yeah,
yeah, and you don't have to worry about it. And that's how we let people in when they move in as well. So you
yeah,
can move if you want to move in at 1 o'clock in the morning, go knock yourself out. Here's your code.
yeah,
You're good to go. We'll come back and 24 hours later, we'll take that lockbox off so it's not annoying you.
yeah.
But we're set. So it makes it nice and smooth. We also have like our telephone service 24/7. We have one going on because you need to have that in
Yeah.
today's day and age because you do want to be
2
able to
a.m. The
check,
toilet's leaking.
which usually comes to me, by the way.
Yeah, right, right.
It's like on the first line of defense on middle of the night stuff.
Yeah. So
So
when you're onboarding a new client, what do they need? I mean, do they have to go and sign up for all these systems, or that's a service that you provide
we
through
do it
your fee
all.
that you're charging?
Yeah.
That's
Yeah. When someone signs up with us, um, it starts out with, we send our property management agreement to them. From there, they get an email and we use a software where they can upload all their information and it automatically feeds into the system. So
no.
we have all of our questions answered. Then at that point, we're just collecting keys and we're moving forward. And I tell people, it goes really fast once you're out of it.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people actually cut off their nose to spite their face. Let's call it what it is. They like to over renovate, or they want to manage to control it, but their controlling actually stops people from doing what they do.
Yeah.
Because right now, if we have, say, I go into a unit and it needs work, here's your estimate. You pay that contractor, your starting amount, and then as soon as he's done, I get a call that sends in the cleaners. Cleaners are done, they get a call, sends in the Matterport. So we can literally turn a whole unit, even once it starts, it can be stopped and started within 5 business days. It's very, very quick. But if I have someone going, well, now I would like to do, and what about, and it's a constant thing of you're over renovating, stop.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or they try to do it cheaper. And what people don't realize, look at this estimate, and maybe it says 10,000, but you have a guy who does 9,000. But now your guy takes 6 weeks to do it. It's not done to where we can actually even show it. We have to go in and fix problems. It's going to cost you more money in vacancy loss than it is for that $2,000.
Yeah, that's the key. I feel like a landlord has to be aware of that vacancy loss, because if you're out 6 weeks, you're never going to get those dollars back. So the quicker you can get somebody back into that unit and enjoying it as their home, that and paying you rent, like that needs to be the focus every time. Correct in saying that, or thinking that?
Yeah, absolutely. Vacancy loss, and people. Okay, here's what vacancy loss is. Someone moves out, the next person moves in. That time in between is your vacancy loss. That's why we have a super quick turn.
Yeah.
Because of that. And that's why my people work the way they work, because we know we have to get it up on the market. Because it's not only costing you money, but it's costing me money, because I don't take money until someone moves in. So I want them to be moved in. And our screening process is really, really quite extensive, because we are looking for that perfect fit for every unit. Why we're following all the laws that we have to follow. So it's a pretty good system. And I would say our average vacancy is 15 days.
Yeah.
Which is pretty solid.
Yeah. So you brought up laws, so we got to jump into that now. Okay. So
my favorite.
Yeah, right. So the Costa Hawkins Rental Housing Act, that was passed back in the 90s, if I'm correct in saying that.
Yes.
But that is on the ballot again this November in the state of California. Can you give us the highlights of that, and why should we care? And if you're a landlord or an aspiring landlord, what should you be doing about it?
So Costa Hawkins gets attacked every single ballot. It's been every year it gets caught. I sit on California Association Realtor committees. This is always our focus, because I call it like popping a beer can. You get that.
Yeah.
All you need is that to drink that whole entire beer, right?
Yeah.
That whole entire drink.
Yeah.
That's what Costa Hawkins is. They always say, we're going to just do this one little piece. But once you open up the legislation, it opens it all up.
Yeah.
It covers your single family homes. So if you're doing a rental right now, the state of California has a rent stabilization program for all the state of California. Now, there are other cities that have more in-depth rent stabilizations.
Or stricter.
Right, stricter. And you have to go to whatever stricter, and sometimes you have to meld the policies together. So under the state, they said we're going to do one rent stabilization and tenant protection ordinance, just one. By lumping it that way, Costa Hawkins takes over and says, hey, single family, you don't have to worry. Or say you have a duplex where the owner lived there first, you don't have to worry. Or you are a brand new build, and it's right now there's a date on it of 1995. Normally we say 15 years or younger, but the date on that is 1995.
Okay.
This is not so in the teen years coming up shortly, right? So it's like right at 19. So last year they tried to move it so that it became a rolling 15, which means that it would constantly update itself. But then they were trying to pull out certain portions of the state that would have a different portion of it. It was so convoluted that it did not pass. Again, we did not want that to pass, because it opens up Costa Hawkins just enough to take away those rights for single family homeowners. So when you're looking at a brand new build, they're never going to be under rent stabilization, not for the next 20 years, pretty much.
Yeah.
Again, it says 15 years or younger, but again, if you really truly look at Costa Hawkins, it spells out a date.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So
just explain it for me then. So Costa Hawkins right now, it protects single family property owners from stabilization. Excuse me. Am I saying that right?
Right.
And then on the ballot this November, the proposed change for them to make is that will apply to all single family homes across the state. Is that fair to say?
No, they're actually coming at it a little bit differently. I believe I would have to look it back up, but it's in the wording.
Okay.
So they're never going to say we're coming after your single family homes. They're going to say, hey, we would like to make this change, and it's a word. I can't think of what it's called right now because they brought it up several times. But just by that one word being in the new proposed change, it would open up Costa Hawkins for other changes.
Okay.
So if it's opened up at all, it will open up at all.
Okay.
So
and
that's why.
Essentially, I think the threat at this point is that if they open it up, it will become stricter and stricter and stricter for landlords across the state, affording more protections for tenants at this point.
Yeah, and we are a renter state. I think right now we're at I want to say it's 54 or 61% where we are a renter state at this point.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah.
And then talk to me a little bit about this as well. AB 2216, and that bars property owners from asking about pets. Have you heard about this, or are you on the loop on that? And also prohibiting pet rent.
Yeah. So let me pop some Tylenol. Yeah, it allows it. You cannot. It would bar anyone from saying no. We will not accept this pet.
Okay.
Right now, we can limit it to 1 dog, 1 cat. We can limit it to no pets.
Okay.
There are certain people who plan on moving back into that home, and they're afraid of all the pet allergens. We see that a lot. Yeah. Or they're just worried about the pet damage. So I've seen cute little puppy eat a water line in a bathroom and cause, $8,000 worth of damage.
Yep.
So we have a pet screening policy. Everybody goes to pet screening, whether you have a pet or you don't have a pet. If you have a service animal, emotional support animal, everybody gets screened. You put in your paperwork. They come back and say, yeah, this is definitely qualifies for service, because you cannot turn away a service animal. They're animals. There's a difference. Mm-hmm. There's a difference between a pet and an animal.
Okay.
So an animal is going to be your service animal, your emotional support animal. Those are covered already by law. It's the rest of them that are not.
Okay. And then part of your screening process is you are asking for documentation for that service animal or emotional support animal owner.
Right. There are laws in California that say you have to have 30 days with, a therapist if it's emotional support. You can't just go, because there was a lot of folks that were writing notes for their friends. It was the nurse in the office. It was not the person who was supposed to be writing it. That law actually happened, I want to say last year.
Okay.
Where they said, hey, yeah, I think it was January of 2023 where they said, there's going to be more restrictions on this.
Okay.
People were pushing back against it. And if you truly need those animals, have those animals. But there was a lot of people taking advantage of it.
Or abusing the system.
I'm going to get this pit bull and I'm just going to get it. And I'm going to go online.
Yeah.
For $37.99, buy a vest and say it's a service animal. Well, no, and by the way, for those who, when it comes to service animals, the service animals has to be within their handlers at all times. That's the biggest thing. Because I had someone come into my office saying, no, I have a service animal. I go, well, where is it?
Yeah. Yeah, if it's really a service animal, it needs to be with you, right? Yeah.
It has to be with you because it's providing you a service that's life altering. Whereas if you have an emotional support animal, they're usually with them, but not necessarily. Again, they can be left alone versus the service animals not to be left alone. They're not allowed to go out to the bathroom by themselves without their handler.
Wow.
Because I've had that where someone said, no, they can go. They're a service animal. I'm like, they're not even in your
line of sight.
Wow.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, let's touch on so by the way, so Costa Hawkins and AB 2216, that's on the ballot for November. So landlords, if these things matter to you, certainly pay attention and make sure that you're participating in our democracy and voting on that.
Can I plug an unnumbered one?
Sure.
This one's huge. It's coming. There's actually 2 that are coming through. The
Please.
one that the 2 that we're saying no to that are unnumbered right now. They're trying to make the vote to be right now, the vote to get something passed at any level is 2/3.
Okay.
They would like to change to 55%.
Okay.
So,
That's the state legislature. That's the state.
and at the local level, it would change
Okay.
at the local level as well. So if only you have 5 people on your, you have 5 people that sit on a city council and they have a bond measure come up, 3 people can make that happen.
Okay.
Because they have that 55%. So it's 50 plus 1.
Got it.
At 2/3, and to get it rolled back, they have to get a 2/3 vote for it. So they're making it look like it's something, but actually it's going to affect payer. So the taxpayer association's on this as well, because it is going to affect landlords or any owner's taxes. You don't want things just passing willy-nilly and never. That's why things are so hard to get passed right now, because they need that 2/3 of the vote. So you want to keep that 2/3 of the vote. That is going to be a no on the ballot. And the other thing is that there are organizations that are 501c, is it 501c? You know, the nonprofit,
nonprofit,
right? So there's one nonprofit out of Los Angeles that is a foundation, and they take a lot of their money out of their foundation and fight real estate. It has nothing to do with that. So we are trying to stop that. That's a big stop and ask that we're trying to have happen, where if you have a foundation, your money should go to whatever that crisis is that you're trying to help. It should stay out of the real estate realm.
Yeah, if it's charitable funds, help the charity, and don't use it to go against landlords. Yeah,
so those are 2 big. And the way that they are positioning that one is and other items. So the ones for the 2/3 to the 55%, it says any other items, and that any other items is good, because they're saying it's for hospitals and for police forces, and then any other infractions or functions that they needed to. And that's where that wording is going to get us all caught up.
Gotcha. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for pointing that out. Okay. So final question here. So as it relates specifically to the city of Ventura, there's some changes that are coming up on the ballot for next month's city council meeting. Can you kind of just touch on the highlights of those and let us know what to be on the lookout for? And again, what can be done, if anything?
So there's the HOPE meeting, which is the housing committee meeting with the city of Ventura. Go to those. You'll find out there's so much more that's being done. There's the state of the economy that there's also there's a meeting for that. That's monthly. They're talking about what's happening within the city. And then you have the city council meetings. So the push through is to have stronger tenant protections, as well as a rent stabilization. It has been tabled. It was December 21st. They did ask for a first policy review of it. And now it's sort of kind of being tabled. But we do see that, it rears up every once in a while. What you need to know is when they separate rent stabilization from tenant ordinances cover all single family. It covers all units. Whereas rent stabilization, again, follows Costa Hawkins.
Got it. So essentially, they're looking to expand the protections out to the single family properties, which they currently don't have.
Yeah. So right now they're following the state. The state did pass some hefty fines as of January 1st, or as of April 1st, but they can go back 2 years. So if you're asking someone to leave because you're selling a unit, you can't do that. That's not really a reason. If it is 2 or more units where the owner doesn't live in it first.
Got it.
However, if you're in a single family home, currently they can do that.
Okay, so let's pretend I own a single family rental property here in the city of Ventura. I can currently ask that tenant to leave or evict that tenant. What would be the proper terminology there?
It would be called a non-just cause eviction.
Non-just.
Yeah. So you would just give them notice to leave, and you're okay with that.
And my reasoning is I'm selling this property.
Right. So So for a single family, you can do that. There's no tenant protections around it. So that's what they want is they want tenant protections and a reason why you're taking it off the rental.
Okay. And then
in Oxnard, you cannot do that. In Oxnard, you're not allowed to do that.
On a single family specifically.
Right.
Okay. On the Ventura piece, do I have to pay, back to that scenario of single family property, do I have to pay a relocation fee to that tenant in order to get them out for the non-just cause eviction?
For a single family, no, but for any other unit, it's 2 or more units where the owner has not lived there first on a duplex. Otherwise, 3 plexes or more, then that's a whole different thing. But yes, they would be equal to 1 month's rent.
Okay, got it. And not to throw any of my colleagues under the bus, but I have had some recent scenarios where listing agents that are representing duplexes and triplexes have told me, "Don't worry, the owner will get these tenants out
Oh,
before before
oh,
we close escrow."
okay, so that's completely different. You don't get to pay them out for that reason. Selling a unit is not it. You have to be taking it off the rental market. And you're thinking, well, I'm selling it, so it takes it off the rental market. No, because you don't know what that buyer is going to do. So the buyer gives notice if it's a real, and if it's going to be a major remodel, you have to have those permits in hand from the city of Ventura. You do pay, I believe, a little bit more with the city of Ventura because that is one of their moratoriums that they currently have.
Okay.
And you give them the proper noticing on it. The city is really fighting back against us right now because there has been some bad actors in that realm. And by the way, SB 567 is the fine and fee you're going to pay if you do it wrong. So, and that has up to treble damages, and that's a whole nother conversation. But
that's when fees get into the six-figure range, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Gotcha.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Well, good. Well, Janet, thank you so much. If the people want to get in touch with you, please, how do we get in touch with you? Your cell phone, email,
yes.
media?
Absolutely. So you can go to rent805.com. There's a lot of information on there that you can find from us. If you're looking just to even find out what you can get for your rental, it's all there for you. Okay. Or you can reach us at 805-776-8805, or my email is janet@rent805.com.
Fantastic. I'm going to make sure that I put that down in the description box below too, so that people can reach out to you. Guys, I have reached out to Janet. Hopefully I'm not putting you on blast here, but you are a wealth of knowledge. Please call Janet. She's always happy to take the phone call and always has a smile on her face. I can hear it through the phone. So,
oh, thanks so much. I appreciate that.
Well, cool. Thank you so much for doing this today. And I'm sure we'll be talking soon. Thank you so much, Janet.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for watching. I hope that you learned something in this video. And if you did, please share it down below in the comments. And I will see you on the next video.